some things that we talked about already. So we're going to talk about our monthly giveaway real quick. So the monthly giveaway for October, November, and December. Now, it's too late to submit any questions for this particular show, but you can submit questions for the upcoming weeks coming forward. So how do you become eligible to be in the monthly giveaway? So first and foremost, go to www.totalmindsetshift.com. Again, go to www.totalmindsetshift.com. If that's too much to remember, just type in DwayneDwyer.com. I promise it'll come up. Okay. Once you go there, you make sure that you become a member of the site. Once you become a member of the site, go find the message board. It's easiest right there. Once you go and find the message board, the message that's pinned to the top is where you will find the submission form. Make sure that you click more because I tend to do a lot of writing. So it's in there, right? So when you click more, it opens up and you'll find the link to the submission form there. Go ahead and when you open that link up, it'll have like the show title and you can put in your questions there and we will get them and then we will include them into the conversation during that particular week. Um, and then just to make sure that we're fair, once the show airs, got it? Once the show airs on that Friday, it is too late to make any submissions. So the only shows that you can submit for are the upcoming shows from that point on. So again, those people who submit their questions for the month of October, again, we will select those questions, and those individuals will be um, they will be entered into the draft. So that's what it is. And for those who entered questions for this conversation, I want to say thank you. And those questions are in this conversation. Now, that being said, that takes us to the topic of this evening's show, which is peeling back the hidden layers of domestic violence. Now, first and foremost, I want to kind of, put a disclaimer out there. I want to make sure that we understand completely and just clear. We want to make sure that we understand clearly that this can be a very sensitive topic. Okay, so the key here is to make sure that number one, we respect everybody's opinion and we respect everybody's experiences. Again, respect opinions and respect experiences. Last but not least, the individuals who are giving their actual comments, their thoughts, their opinions do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the entire community. So make sure that we keep that in mind. It is not about one person. It is all about the community. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and we greatly appreciate and respect that. But let's make sure that we're respecting opinions as well. Now, that said, behind every face, and I want to make sure I'm saying this, behind every face or mask lies a story often hidden, often silenced. What if I told you that behind some of those masks are tales of heartache, manipulation, and pain? That said, welcome to today's episode where we're going to unmask and reveal some of the hidden layers of domestic violence. It's more than just physical scars, it's the unseen wounds that cut deep, the emotional, psychological, and even financial chains that keep many trapped. If you or anyone you love find yourself in this space, then this video is for you. By understanding, by supporting, and by empowering, we can shatter those chains and rebuild lives. So stay with us as we shed light on darkness, expose the hidden, and champion love and healing. As we dive in, consider joining the Empowering Perspective community and membership program. It's a sanctuary, a place where love truly abounds. That said, let's join just journey as we venture down this path together. So, as always, you guys know I like scenarios. So this week's scenario is called The Case of Sarah. Now, imagine you are facilitating a group session, you gentlemen, on on personal development, incorporating your background and experiences. One of the members, Sarah, opens up after listening to one of your stories. She says that she's been feeling like she's not experiencing the best version of her life, and she suspects it's due to the emotional and physical abuse she endured years ago in past relationships. Gentlemen, that takes us to our first question. What are the specific factors that make some that make some individuals more susceptible to becoming victims of domestic violence?
I have no idea. This is something that I never understood. I truly don't. So I'm going to defer to y'all. I don't understand the whole DV thing. I never understood it.
I think
My bad. Yeah, I was trying to jump you before you got profound, and I wanted to give my unintellectual opinion first. No,
Unintellect. Don't do that to yourself, Tawam, man.
nah, because I'm kind of with you though, right? I personally believe that it's all on the offender, whether it's male or female. It's hard for me to really sit back and say this makes this person more open to being abused and becoming a victim of domestic violence. I think it more has to do with the offender. Now, I believe that sometimes the offender might prey on someone that he feels more vulnerable or more weak, or someone who's more willing to accept his or her behavior. But what does that look like? I think that all depends on the predator, right? So for me, it's hard to really pinpoint it directly to a possible victim.
I've had experience where victims grew up in environments where it was normal. So the normalcy of having the husband or the male of the house being a domineering individual and him putting hands on people to get his point across, or when he gets frustrated, and also things that helping that is the same things that help you make bad decisions: the drinking, the drugs, the all the things of those sorts that people use to dumb down their senses. But when it comes to, those things I've seen personally, and people growing up in those environments tend to think it's a normal, when they can, okay, if I am, because they didn't learn the right way, the correct way to be a husband, to be a man, to be a father, or whomever, whatever situation, can be women also, then they learn the wrong way and they think wrong is right and it's just natural to them.
So they have to get their love through force, is what you're saying, because that's the environment that they were brought up in. Is that what I'm getting? I'm trying to understand it. Like, I'm not, I really, because this is something that I just do not get. Like, how could you stay in a situation where the person that claims that, the person that claims that they love you is doing these harmful things to you under the guise of love, but you know that it hurts? Like, I don't get it.
Because it's a learned behavior in some aspects, where people will say, hey, that's the only thing they understand is love. If you don't put your hands on me, you're not loving me. If you're not shaking me and I getting, that's why a lot of women will get in your face, or people will get in your face and try to make you shake them or do something physical towards them, because that's what they understand is, oh, he loved me because, you got a black eye. He don't love you. You're a punching bag. Or what she's doing. That's not love. And when you don't understand what love is, that's where you go wrong in the first place, because you're looking for something, and what you find is a person that wants to control you and not love you.
And I think that I don't disagree, because I do believe that there are things that some of us have grown up with that we recognize and have become comfortable in that environment. But even in that, I think it's the predator that notices these factors. And because they're not going to hit a person that'll hit back, I don't believe, or hit a person that'll call the cops, or hit a person that has that mindset of, you get me, I'm gonna get you, because they ain't trying to get got back. You know what I'm saying? So I think sometimes they, and it might be not, it might not be something that you show early on in relationships. It might be them taking little small steps towards it, that they start seeing you allowing things to happen. you allowing a little bit here and they take more. It could, and so I do agree that what allows people to stay there or deal with it or allow it is the familiarity. Like that's what they've seen. And I don't want to use the word, some people are addicted to that level of toxicity, but for me, it still peels back and goes back to the abuser.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you finished? Okay. Yeah, I like what you're saying. Actually, I'm liking what I'm hearing so far, because I don't disagree with anything that you guys are saying. I think the key here, when you're looking at this question, it's not so much as because Chris, I understand your point. Like, how can you stay, right? So after it has presented itself and it has been in play for an extended period of time, why are you choosing to stay in that? I understand your question, but based upon the question, I think this is the beginning stages of it, right? So becoming victims of domestic violence. And one of the things I want to kind of bring to the forefront in conjunction with everything that everybody already said is first and foremost, and I think some people may have hit it in the chat, just the lack of understanding what a relationship is, the lack of understanding what love is really all about. And so in some instances, we believe that, oh, well, that person only did that because that's their way of showing that they care. There's nothing wrong with a little jealousy, things of that nature. But then I will also add finances could be a very pivotal point when it comes down to relationships, that can actually lead to violence within it because it becomes a metric of control to where one person lacks it, another person actually has it. So they control it, right? And then they use it as a weapon against that person. And then ultimately, if that person mismanages or does something with the finances that the other person does not approve of, then it could lead to a violent situation. It may not yield violence itself, but the situation itself can become violent. So that's one of the reasons why I love where you guys are going with this, because it's a number of different facets. And for me, I think we have to understand, and I want to start this up early. This is not gender specific. When we start talking about, domestic issues, domestic violence, domestic abuse, it's not a gender specific conversation. What I will offer is that most men are more slow to say something about it because of certain stigmas and things of that nature. And we're
We
getting
don't
to
want to
that.
get viewed as a punk.
He said it. Absolutely.
Let's just
Uh,
bottom line it. Most men don't talk about this because we don't want to get viewed as weak. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we don't.
yeah.
And to keep it real, nobody cares. At least that's the way it's presented. Like, nobody cares.
Well, I will add this to that. I won't jump into the nobody cares, especially if everybody doesn't know. You see what I'm saying? I think what we believe is that nobody would care. So we don't say anything about it. But I would offer
That's
that.
what I'm saying. That's
Right.
what I'm saying. Like, we really believe that nobody cares about us getting hurt. They care about if we're hurting
Right.
other people. So we don't say nothing.
Yeah. Right. And the reason why I want to bring this to the table, because again, I don't want it to sound like a gender specific discussion. It's not going to be pro man. It's not going to be pro woman. It's pro people, right? Because everybody deal with it. Well, not everybody, but every gender deals with it. I'll say it that way. Okay. Yes. You have something wrong?
Yeah, I didn't want to skate past this part. 'Cause, we probably get to it later. But another thing is culturally, growing up in a patriarchal system where you learn that the man is in charge, he views it and he sees himself as being the man when he's domineering. So you will have situations where the only way he feels he can control her, the kids, or whomever is to buck up and take over physically. And then that becomes his norm. And then if you allow even little boys, I would never let like my son or whomever playing with their mom, play fighting and stuff. Nope, you don't do that with women. Because in my head, I think you don't do that with women, period. It ain't like you can play fight with them now. No, don't play fight with them, period. That's just me.
If you
Go ahead.
if you take that avenue, right? Can I and coach, you can cut me short if I derail, but I can take that and make the assumption that maybe that man may not, though he may become an abuser, is not necessarily a predator, but when the situation arises and he doesn't get the respect he believes he deserves as a man, he lashes out and don't know any other way if he's not taught how to handle situations in his home as a man, and lashes out in his emotion and it becomes physical.
Yeah.
That's good. That's
I
good.
just, I just don't want to skate past that.
No. I'm glad you brought that up because that is definitely one of the big talking points, and we're not going to leave that off the table. So thank you for sharing that. And Gaddy, I'm with you, brother. It is definitely a hyper vigilant emotional response. So let's jump on some of these statements in the chat because they are doing their thing already. So before I get too far, Miss Charlotte Jordan, good to see you and welcome to this evening's show. Randy K, welcome to the show. Cassandra, I think I spoke to you already. I'm not sure, but if I didn't, welcome to the show. Shanithia Burns, welcome to the show. Good to see you. And I think I pretty much covered everybody. Okay, so now let's grab some of these points. I think Michelle, first one factor is age. Younger individuals may be more vulnerable due to dependence on the abuser or lack of resources to escape the situation. Absolutely, absolutely. So we also and for me, I'll be honest with you, that was always the thing, right? You know, when you start seeing a large age variance, it's like Spidey sense starts tingling. You know, parents start going crazy. Why are you with that young? Why are you with that old woman anyway? Why are you with that old man? You know, stuff like that. So that is always a good point because when you look at the age variance, the older person can easily manipulate the younger person. So great point. And I agree with you, Miss Charlotte Jordan. You know, looking for love. You know that old song, "Looking for Love," and all the wrong. I'm sorry. Randy K. She said, "If I may add, I also think violence ensues when boundaries are respected, i.e., someone asking aren't respected." Okay. Um, i.e., asking for a break in the argument or conversation. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Lisa Keys said, I think a person can be susceptible to becoming a victim because the predator seeks vulnerable individuals and lack of knowledge of what the love of God is. True, absolutely. And I really do think there are people out there like that. And I don't want to demonize them because in most cases it's something that they don't know and they probably don't know that they do it. So they probably just need some help. But they actually look for younger individuals that they can take advantage of and manipulate. Michelle Ray says another factor is socioeconomic status. People with limited financial resources may find it harder to leave an abusive relationship or access support system. Absolutely agreed. Ms. Jackson says some victims just can't be alone, so will accept the abuse. Absolutely. The enemy roams to and fro, seeking whom they may ever devour. Absolutely. Substance abuse. Thank you. That was the one I forgot. Substance abuse is another a key point when it come down to being a victim of domestic violence as well. Ms. McCoy said a friend once told me that if he doesn't hit me, he doesn't love me. See,
I
that's
have heard that. I have heard that. I have heard people say that if he doesn't do this to me, then he doesn't love me. Like if there's no drama that they can emotionally react to, then they don't know how to react. Or if she isn't yelling and screaming and cursing me out every 30 seconds, then she doesn't really care. You understand what I'm saying? Like I'm trying to understand this because I just don't get it.
yeah. I think I think sometimes I think sometimes the attempt to understand something that does not move us in the positive direction or the direction of righteousness, um, I don't think we really need to. And I'm just offering this as a thought. I don't think we really need to understand that. We just need to be available to help them if they come and say, "Hey, can I talk to you?" Whatever the case may be. I think that's more important than understanding why they stay, if that makes sense. And yeah, I think that's good enough. I think if we just be available to help a person in that situation, we don't necessarily need to understand their why, because I think that might be part of the reason why they don't come forward, because they may feel they need to explain the why, right? So if
Yes,
we
sir.
yeah, so if we move that off the table and just receive them, then I think the community, and somebody mentioned that as well, I think the community overall, Maybird mentioned it, the community overall can be receptive, and the community can be a great focal point that helps people in those situations. A lack of community contributes to some individuals remaining in abusive relationships, absolutely, because they don't want to feel embarrassed about having the details about that conversation. And if we just eliminate the details, right, and just understand the facts, right, this is what's going on. Okay, got it. And again, I'm not saying not to understand. I think that if we just don't focus on understanding, that's my point.
Like not understanding the why, but understanding their why, if that makes any sense.
Well, not necessarily understanding their why, just understanding where they are. You see what I'm
Right,
saying?
like the situation.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
okay.
Yeah, and I think that helps people better. That makes them less tied to feeling the potential embarrassment. Because you got to realize we make stories up in our mind all the time about what someone else is going to think about us. And so for a person who is in that situation, one of the things that they may encounter that dissonance, that concern, that anxiety, right? If I share this with Chris, Chris is going to look at me like I'm stupid, like you see what I'm saying? And they're not any of that. They were just caught up in a bad situation, and they may not have known how to get out of it. There's so many different variables when it comes down to this. So I just want to throw that out there. Chris and Gigi, I'm sorry I missed you. Welcome to the show. I think I said, is it Gigi or Gig TV? It's Gig TV. Chris and Gig TV, welcome to the show. I'm sorry I missed you. Listen, you guys keep bringing the comments. I love them. But we're going to keep pressing, because one of the things I want to do is start hitting on some of these hot topics. Again, keep adding your messages wherever you are. Go ahead and hit the like button. If you feel so inclined, go ahead and hit the heart button. We like hearts as well. So wherever you are, it doesn't matter what platform, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever, just go ahead and hit the like button, because the algorithm love it, and we appreciate it as well, just as much as we value you. Now, the first category is psychological manipulation and control. Under the category of psychological manipulation and control, how do emotional and psychological, hold on, I lost my place. How do emotional and psychological manipulation tactics not only trap victims in abusive relationships, but also make it difficult for friends and families to recognize the signs and offer meaningful support?
I I think sometimes when you're dealing with someone who, and just forgive me when I say no, I know how to say it. When you're dealing with someone who is a mental abuser or emotional abuser, they've had practice. Um, and hear me, please, hear my heart when I say this. I catch my kids in their manipulation tactics to each other and to us as parents, because they're practicing bad behavior. And if I allow it because they're kids, what I am doing is I am helping them perfect this behavior for later. And so oftentimes it becomes disguised as just normal behavior, but they know how to do things that trigger. They know how to manipulate scenarios, and they know how, and until one day you sit back and you don't even recognize yourself in the scenario. So it's not it's not something that you can put makeup on, and it's not something you can put shades on, or you can just sit in the house for a couple of days till you heal. It's something that's embedded in the behavior, not just of that person, but now has become the behavior of how we operate. And if I have you believing that you've done a thing on your own and you haven't been manipulated, you seem happy to do it. So how then are the signs going to be seen outwardly from third parties? And sometimes parents can see it if they've experienced it themselves, or if they're close to to the couple, but on first glance, I think it becomes hard. It's hard to see because it's part of the behavior of that unity.
I would say, given that, so when you ask this question, are you talking male female dynamic, or are you talking all forms?
Let's go off forms.
Well, I'm going to say that that traps victims in abusive relationships because of a sense of blind loyalty. Like, you're supposed to tolerate this because this person has a position in your life. You're supposed to allow your mama to manipulate you because she's mama, and she's going to hold that over your head because she's mama. You're supposed to allow your dad to physically manipulate you or emotionally and psychologically tell you you trash, and just take it because he's dad. And if you say something is disrespectful, that's something that I had to deal with. You understand what I'm saying? And it's not until you realize that love doesn't hurt that you just remove yourself from it. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you just have to remove yourself from it, no matter how much it hurts. But it's a sense of blind loyalty and a sense of blind responsibility to this person because of a position that they hold in your life.
Yeah. And here's why I said all forms, because I don't want to limit this just to like intimate relationships. Like, you have those, elderly abuse, you have, sibling, you have all different types of abuse. And so I want to make sure that we're uncovering all of this and not just limit it to just, intimate relationships. Go ahead, Ro.
I think I was groomed in a culture that facilitated all of these behaviors because I was groomed in a culture that pushed the pimp mentality, that pushed the hustler mentality. And all of those things are about manipulation and mind manipulation, because you're taught that you don't have to control the body. If you control the mind, you got a body, and you make people think that this is the best thing that they need for themselves. So you automatically catch yourself being an entrepreneur of people, of substances, of things. So now, when you can manipulate somebody to think that what you have for them is better than what is better for them, then you have a sense of control and you grow up thinking that. So now, when you know that you can control someone's mind, you can manipulate them to do what you want versus what's good for them. Then it's almost, you get a God complex. And you get a God complex and you start to think, okay, yeah, if I can do this, I can do that. And then when you feel you losing control, now you flip it. Like, you seen it on the movie with Ike Turner and Tina Turner. He said, oh, you gonna leave me like all them other fades? And all that other stuff. He would manipulate her sympathy, her love for him, her desire to be with him and see that he's all right, to nurture him. He would manipulate those feelings in her to do what he wanted her to do. And then he controlled her if he couldn't do it that way. Now the drugs come in. Now the physical abuse comes in. So that whole mental thing is you can, if you trap someone mentally, that's what's wrong with our people now. We are trapped mentally. We aren't in chains. We aren't in cells, a lot of us, but mentally we're trapped. So we do the same things our mother did, the same things our father did, and we stay in that rut until we see something different and find our way out.
I am. So, Roland, your thoughts and my, I'm liking the fact that you brought in the whole Ike and Tina situation, right? Because when that movie came out, everybody loved it. Everybody talked a lot about it because they knew something, but they didn't know all of the details behind it. And it's just ironic that the title of the movie is "What's Love Got to Do with It," right? Um, I think that was the key, and I'm not using the movie as the focal point, just a reference point. I think that word is the key to a lot of the manipulation that you see that goes on. Like, Miss Charlotte Jordan mentioned earlier about some people don't feel that the other person love them unless they're doing something. Chris, you said you heard that as well. So the manipulative tactic that goes along with the lack of understanding, and then turning around and using that lack of understanding and saying, if you love me, then. So putting it in an if then statement, which should be a clear and blaring and obvious sign that it has absolutely nothing to do with love, for starters, right? It is clearly a manipulative tactic. Or, once you get to the point to where you get fed up with what the situation is, and then you're going to pack your bags, and now that person flips the script on you, and now they become the victim. And then they start talking about, every time I get somebody and get to the point where we start doing something, it always turn out to be like this. So now you start feeling bad for wanting to remove yourself from a toxic situation. I think all of these things contribute to the trap. You need to get out, but you start feeling bad about getting out. You start feeling bad, and you start thinking about, like, what will happen to this person if I leave, as though what's going on with you right now in this particular moment isn't one of the most important things. There is a thing, what is it? I can't remember what it's called right now, to where the abuser starts to have a large degree of respect and love for the oppressor. Um, and they start
Stockholm syndrome.
That's it. Thank you. I couldn't think of it right now. Stockholm syndrome will be real, because when you get around your family members, and if your family members start seeing things and they start saying little small things just to see if you reveal, then that person may start defending them. Well, don't talk about this person like that, because you don't know what they do for me, and you don't know how much they've been there for me, and you wasn't around when this. So you start defending this person. This is a trap. This is a psychological trap that is not healthy and will not have a great outcome in the end. It is an emotional trap, to where you just keep cycling old emotions. And when it comes down to the emotional trap, you can't keep going back to the beginning on what you felt when you guys first met. You have to focus on the here and now. And that's one of the things I've seen a lot. You keep thinking about the past. When we met back in 1985, no, 1985 is gone. What's going on in 2023 right now? We got what took place then. But now that you've been together for X amount of years and all this other great, this is the person that they are right now. And believe the person that they're showing themselves to be. So, man, I love it. I love it. Go ahead, brother. I think you about to go ahead.
You just made me think, right? Because what I alongside with Stockholm syndrome, I think one of the things that makes it hard to be seen outwardly or outside of the couple is sometimes the abused believes the manipulation themselves and don't believe that they're being manipulated. So some people can act that way because they were mentally they believe that whatever happening physically or mentally at home is their fault. It's because he or she led them to believe it's because you didn't behave the right way, you deserve these repercussions. And so and so that's something that people need to understand. Don't believe everything someone say. If it comes with some form of mental or physical repercussions, it's not your fault. You might not have done what they like, but don't mean X, Y, Z. It needs to be the outcome. And what some people would do in relationships is they would shut down, and not even from a physical part. They'll shut down their companionship. They shut down communication. They shut down the things that you have become accustomed to from them in a relationship because you stop behaving how they want you to behave. That's also a form of manipulation. I'm gonna leave that alone.
Oh, you good, man. Chris, you had something? I seen you was unmuted.
Nah, let's just dive into it. I because you said you didn't want to make this gender specific. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you don't. So I'm going to save what I have to say. And if it comes up later, it comes up later.
Okay. Good to go, Roland? All right, very good. Let's see you want to dive into the next one? Okay. Why do victims stay in Why do victims? This is one of our questions, by the way. So thank you for that. Why do victims stay in domestic violence relationships?
I
Okay, kind of.
have absolutely no idea. I do not. I say it all the time, man. My happiness is paramount, and I do not negotiate with terrorists. I do not understand how somebody can stay in a relationship like that, and it hurt. Aside from the fact that us as men, we were taught that we were supposed to accept this, because if we don't accept this, we're weak and we're punks. I don't understand why you would stay in a relationship like that. Or with women, it's like that man is doing all of these things for you. You can tolerate this little bit to get what you think is a lot, but that little bit is destroying you. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I don't get it.
I thought I saw you unmute earlier. My bad. Oh, maybe I did. Nah. I think we kind of hint to it, but self-esteem. Some people don't have the ability of surviving by themselves, and not from the aspect of being able to pay bills or get a job, but some people, they thrive off of companionship, whether it's false companionship or not. And so when I'm in a place to where I feel like my options aren't many, and this is the best that I can do, and where am I going to go from here? Who wants a dude with let's, and I'm just saying what I have. I'm not, well, who wants a dude almost 40 with 5 kids, right? Who's going to date me? So I'm just saying, so a lot of these things become self-esteem issues, and the abused can't see themselves outside of that current scenario and reestablishing life either by themselves, or believe that anybody better than that will come. I think that's just one facet.
I'll give you that. You just spoke my life, because my self-esteem really did used to be trash, to the point where I used to let people, not just women, people come into my life and just treat me any kind of way just to have somebody around. And then once I decided that this ain't that, because like I said previously, I don't think love is supposed to hurt. Like, it's not. You understand what I'm saying? There may be trials and tribulations within it, but at the core, love is not supposed to hurt. And once I understood that, and again, once I understood that I wanted to be happy, that's when things changed. And what's crazy is I went from being the abused to being the toxic one, because I no longer wanted to be abused, and I stood up for myself. You understand what I'm saying? So you spoke my life. Now I'm gonna shut up.
I say that why would a domestic, why would they stay? I think in a nutshell, it's I'm kind of going towards where Twami said. It's because the person doesn't know how to love themselves. They don't know. They don't understand what love is. They think what they've been getting is love. They think that attention. They think that that sex, that feeling that they got is love. So they don't necessarily love themselves because they don't know. They weren't taught. And a lot of this, I put it in the chat earlier, has to do with the family structure, where there's a lack of that true father figure in the home. So when it comes to being hugged for just mere affection, saying, hey, I want to hug you, hey, pat on the back, no, I didn't get that. So now when a man hugs you, you think, oh, he loves me because he hugged me. Then he wanted your body. So he had to do other things. And then when you don't do what he wants, now the mind manipulation and everything else comes into play. So now you don't necessarily love yourself, and you don't know anything better.
I like the idea that you mentioned the absence of the father in the home, um, because I do believe that that's one of those big problems as well. I am going to inject on top of what you're saying that it's a learned behavior based upon them witnessing abuse happening in the home when they grew up. And so in their witnessing it, it now becomes a accepted norm. And then when it happens to them, because again, life does not give you what you want, it gives you who you are, right? Once it's either introduced to them or they actually start becoming that themselves, they become the abuser because they think that's what it's supposed to be. Um, what ends up happening is that it becomes the conditioning. So the conditioning for them is that abuse is necessary, because otherwise you have, and this is just some of the terms I've heard, otherwise you have, you know, I hate to use this term, you have disobedience within the home. You have people doing their own thing and they don't necessarily want to get in line with the thoughts of, you know, said individual, whether it's man or woman. Because I seen a video the other day where this poor brother looked like minced meat. I mean, he was, and he wasn't a little dude either. I mean, he was pretty big. I mean, his face was like all messed up. And I'm not sure. Of course, they don't show it, but they just show the end result because he finally started talking about it. So we have to again understand that this is a learned behavior in some cases, not all cases. It is a learned behavior, and then what ends up happening is because you've seen it growing up, you now live it as an adult. And the unfortunate reality is they actually think it's the right thing to do. Chris, I thought you was about to say something, brother.
No, I was gonna say I saw the same video, and then I saw one similar where a guy was on live stream and the woman was actually hitting him on the live stream, and I mean cocking back and letting it go. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And what's crazy is the comment section was obnoxious. Like I Roland is right. We think this is normal. We think this is normal because this is what we constantly see. And this is not normal. I'm sorry.
No, absolutely. And again, we got to stop glamorizing this stuff as well. It's not cute. It's not something that we need to be braggadocious about either. It is part of one of the biggest issues that we have in our culture. Um, we are brothers and sisters at our core, but we're walking around like I like to look at it because I have daughters, right? I like to look at it from the perspective of what would go through my mind if I realized that another man is beating up on my daughter, a man that she's in a relationship with. Um, I don't think I have the answer right now. I'm just being honest, right? I know what my mind is telling me right now, but if it were to happen, I'm not sure if my mind would tell me the exact same thing right now. We have to stop doing that. We have to be consciously aware that we're brothers and sisters, regardless of where you come from, regardless of what you've seen growing up. Like we are supposed to be there to help one another grow and be better. Go ahead, brother.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tawame. Go ahead.
No, it's just that as we having this conversation, it's just like so many things that are going on in our society. We've had so many conversations on this podcast, and even before I got on here, that I'm realizing why it frustrates me. The things that we do, that we deal with in our society today, is because it's like global mental abuse, right? When we started having a conversation that there's no such thing as toxic masculinity or toxic femininity, it's just masculine toxic people and feminine toxic people. The people are toxic, but that idea of masculinity could be toxic, or this could be that, and then that puts a fear. And like that young man sat there and took them hits to the face, right to the eyeball, and sat in the camera and continued to sing like nothing was happening, because he didn't want to seem hyper masculine or toxically masculine. And if he would have got up and walked away, the comment section would have called him a B. If he would have hit her back, the comment section would have called him a punk. If he'd have said, if he'd have cried for help, the comment section would have told him to man up. But at the same time, the society is telling him that it's toxic to be masculine. You know what I'm saying? So And so these are not just behavior, and I'm not just talking about just about men, but when Chris brought that situation up, that like we have to be careful with some of these trigger words and try to generalize a thing, because that's what's keeping us from getting to core issues and identifying what's going on, because we're trying to manipulate the masses.
Yeah, I want to, because as this conversation is going on, I understand it may be difficult for some people to listen to. So I want to say it's okay, right? If you need to take a break, get up, walk away from the screen, take a break, breathe, so whatever it is you need to do. And if you decide to come back, great. We would love to have you back. If you want to listen at it at a later point in time, it is available for you to do so. But I understand that this conversation is difficult. So I wanted to make sure I said that, because again, the idea for me is to respect everybody in this conversation. I know it's difficult. I got it. So I kind of want to dive into the children aspect of it. We started talking about it a little bit, but I want to talk about the impact on children. And so when it comes down to children, can you discuss, gentlemen, the concept of generational trauma in relation to domestic violence, and elaborate on signs we should look for to identify children who may be exposed to domestic abuse?
Signs, man. I think when it comes to children, you have to be cognizant at all times of what you're doing, because even if you're play fighting as a couple, they don't necessarily know how to take that sometimes. Hey, why you beating up on mama? Or if you are romantically involved, like, why you beating up on mama? Like, whatever it is can traumatize them, they where they think something is going on that's wrong. That's why you got to make it normal to hug. Oh, this my wife. I can hug my wife. That's my husband. I can hug my husband. People in couple relationship had to make it normal. You can't sit up there and all of a sudden you a statue in a room with one another. You never hold hands. You never kiss. You never hug. You never talk to one another nicely, but you always talk crazy. And I think they learn from that. They learn, know, and do. So now when they grow up emulating parents, they're emulating what they saw. So that could be one of those things. You can identify the children uh, who are at school and are rough with the other children, or rough with the girls, and oh, you gonna be my wife, and you gonna cook, and you gonna clean, and like, what? Like that's what happens at your house. That's not everybody's house, but that's what they see, and so that's what they deliver to whomever, and they think it's okay and find it okay. Lisa just said bedwetting. I think some of those things are traumatic enough to where, as a child, I had to learn, and I didn't learn until I got older, why I acted out and did some of the things I did. I did it because I saw some things that a child shouldn't see, and were partook in some things that I shouldn't have been partaking in. And I didn't know how to handle it as a child. So it came out as an acting out. I wasn't a bedwetter, but I would act out. I would go to school and I would act out. I would start fights. I would do all these things. And they asking me why. I don't know. I don't know. Because I didn't know, because I didn't know how to handle I wasn't emotionally intelligent enough to handle the things that I was going through. So everything that I went through, I just had to go through it and learn later. And parents put their children in situations where they don't have to experience those things. You can shelter them. It's not wrong when you like. I used to think it was wrong because I grew up in the hood. I grew up in Detroit. I used to think it was wrong when my daughters grew up a certain way. I'm like, y'all just soft. Y'all can't take nothing. You know, he just came in with a gun and shot up everybody. Y'all can't take that. That's my mentality. I'm like, that happened every day back where I'm from. And normalizing those behaviors, you as an adult don't realize how much therapy you need.
Man, you from the D, I'm from NYC, and so a lot of times when we talk, I'll be like, yeah, sound about right to me. uh I see Georgia just rolled his eyes a little bit at us. No,
I'm just
but
saying the D in NYC. It sounds like you about to start a rap song, bro.
hey, my hat's out there. You lucky, yeah, he lucky, bro. Nah, but because you hit it right there on the nail, right? A lot of the problems that you see in kids' behaviors come from or stem from the energy that they leave their homes with, that they're surrounded by. So when there's hyper aggression on any side, you shouldn't. I believe in learned behavior. I get frustrated when a certain 8-year-old girl come around me and she's rolling her neck talking to the other children around her, like, cause you better not. And I'm like, first of all, where did you get this type of over aggressive, I'm always right attitude? Lose that. Like, because that's behavior she sees, right? When a boy going to school and he's hyper angry, hyper aggressive for no reason, this is because he's only seen that type of behavior or that type of expression, and he learned it, and so he don't know any other way to deal than to act, like Roland said, act out. And just out means out of character, but it's not necessarily out of character because that's taught character. You can say what you want to children, but how they see you react in your anger, how they see you react to one another, how they see you react to the other parent, it becomes a part of. So they see these manipulations, they see these abuse, they see the verbal abuse, and that's how they express themselves when they don't know how to express themselves. When they don't know what to say, they cuss, especially when you're dealing with elementary school kids, cussing and yelling and telling the teacher to do this and this, and like, wait, you don't even know what that means, but they know how to say it. So I think when you're looking at the children, these are definitely signs when you're dealing with someone that is hyper emotional, hyper angry, oh, and you have to be careful, because what you do is you're crippling that child. Like Roland said, you got to be careful with everything you do around a child, but especially your behavior and how you handle situations in the home, because that you cripple that child from being able to learn how to have problem solving skills as an adult.
So
And
you
then
tell-
that, okay, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. So you telling me that cursing is a sign of trauma? Man, I used to cuss like I said. No, I'm joking.
At 8, that's
No, I'm liking all of this, and I like the fact that Lisa Keys brought up bedwetting as a sign, because for those of you who are my age, or there was a movie that came out years ago. I was a little boy, and it was, I think it was called Mommy Dearest or something like that. When the kid used to wet the bed, right, and she would beat him, and then take the sheets and hang it out the window for everybody to see it. So yeah, it was that kind of movie. But I think she's absolutely right. I think bedwetting is definitely a sign of of abuse. Um, but I also believe definitely agree with you, Gary, with the hyper vigilance, the hyper aggression when it comes down to interacting with other children, right? Interacting with other children, you're trying to be the bully and all that other good stuff. That those are definitely signs. Pay attention also to how they play with their toys. If they got like little action figures, and like one is like, and they have this language, this conversation, to where it sounds like they're having these conversations, and one is like domineering over the other, that could be a sign or an indicator as well. Um, I mean, obvious signs of like scars and welt marks and things of that nature is always there. But another thing is, in when they're around other people, do they appear to be skittish? Like if something sudden happened, if they jump or flinch or whatever the case may be, that could be a sign or indicator as well that we all need to look out for. Children are they're sponges, That's what I would say. They're definitely sponges, and they don't ask for the situation that they find themselves in. So I don't smile upon any form of abuse, but I smile less. I definitely frown, even scowl at children abuse, because again, they didn't ask to be here. You brought them here, and then you're not doing the thing to train them up in the ways that they should go. In fact, you're abusing, right? You're abusing what you're abusing that child, which you have actually been placed in charge of doing something monumental for, and you're not doing the right thing. And so that's kind of like my thoughts on that. I think we have to be um, careful, right? Because in the long run, it's going. I hate to say it, you're going to pay for that, but you have to be careful because again, um, that child is precious. I don't care good, bad. I don't care where that child came from. I don't care how you got that child. That child is precious. So we have to be careful when it comes down to dealing with children.
You're going to turn their child into me, a man who does not have a relationship with his parents because he was not allowed to talk and he was told that his opinion don't matter. I'm mama. This is the dude I married. So what we say go, and I don't care what you got to say. And when that person gets older and out your house, they are not going to care about what you say because they're living their own lives and they understand that the way that you raised them was trash and now they can talk because they're grown. They ain't in your house. So they can say what's on their mind. It's not disrespectful. It's cause and effect. I keep telling y'all this, man. The world does not need more me's out here. Like they don't.
I think you're pretty awesome.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
But see, you're seeing the side of me that got out of that. If I was still within that, I'm pretty sure we would be having actually, if I was still in that, I wouldn't be sitting here because I would still be thinking that what I got to say don't matter because that's mama and that's the dude she married. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm,
I had to leave
yeah.
and never mind. Never mind.
No, you're good, man. You're good. I think it's again. I just think it's important that we look out for our children, and sometimes the child that you have to look out for may not necessarily be yours. I think. Let me see. What are the immediate and long term psychological effects on children who witness domestic violence? I think we talked about that. Probably about 3 or 4 different times already, right? Um, the immediate and long term effects is just simply that they actually think it's the norm. They grow up doing the exact same things they've seen. They have low self esteem, you know. So I think that's important.
And then when they find out it's not normal, when they leave your house, they resent you. You do not want your grown children resenting you. You don't.
And I've seen it where sometimes where the little girls were to keep the male figure off of mother, they will gravitate towards the male figure, and then they become somewhat of a surrogate wife, and that leads to other issues and other situations. And now you have promiscuity, even in her early ages, and then even when she grows up. So now, in order to get her way, that's what she uses. If I'm gonna shut them up, give them some. It becomes her norm and her behavior system.
On the flip side of that, you have son husbands out here. You have son husbands out here that think that mama is, you know what I'm saying? You have son husbands out here that are constantly under their mama because that's mama. You understand what I'm saying? And so they get treated higher, for lack of a better term, than what they're supposed to be. Like, you're not supposed to treat me here. You understand what I'm saying? Not while I'm coming up. I'm supposed to be here, and you're supposed to be teaching me things to get me here for somebody else, not you. You understand what I'm saying? This it's And like I said, man, working in the system and seeing the things that I see both sides of it. That's
But
why
that
I say I stay out of it and I stay objective because I see both sides of it. And I'm not going to say I'm not going to say either one is more right or more wrong. They are both trash.
and I think even that is a sign of trauma and abuse. Um, the mothers who turn their sons into son husbands and vice versa, you know, because let's be honest, we've gone through about 2 generations of where we haven't taught our daughters well how to take care of their body and choose partners well, right? And vice versa, I think. And then we have a generation where we taught some men how, for lack of better terms, right? We taught some men how to simp, and then some men how to run women. And so what happens is,
It's like there's no in between. It's one or
yeah,
the
no,
other.
and so what happens is when we're young, we go through a long period of bad relationships and mistreatment because shorty choosing the thug, thinking she can change him into the thug husband, like, and right, and then old boy over here thinking he could turn her into a housewife, and and a lot of trauma from those relationships. And then you become older or you become a single parent or whatever the case may be, and here's the side effect: you still looking for that companionship. And so you you hold dear to that one person that loves you unconditionally, and that's your daughter, that's your son. And and we create unhealthy relationships, and in that, it becomes unhealthy for him to jump into a relationship with another woman, because how can I take care of her and love her like I'm supposed to when mama's number one? He don't know how to make it, some would say 1A, 1B, or make mama number two to the wife, or whatever the case may be. But we create pathways for unhealthy relationships in the long run.
I like it. I like it. Um, Again, thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate all your comments. We see them. I do want to grab a couple of them real quick. And it's not that all of your comments aren't phenomenal. It's just that you guys are just laying it down thick. And we got some other points that we want to grab. Michelle Ray, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate you. As you already know, you are a valued member of this community, as well as your compadres that show up every week, and we greatly value you. So thank you so much for that. Let's kind of go back to here. I want to start here. I believe helping society identify behaviors can be very helpful in combating the trap, aligning yourself with an abuser. The things some say are cute is a prime example. So this is the reason why I want to grab this, right? Because again, you guys know me. I am all about building and uplifting our community. And I think we need to understand that when the family unit suffers, the community suffers. I've been saying that for quite some time, and I'm going to continue to say that. So the way that we build the community back up is reestablishing the family unit. The family unit is the foundation of the community. So when we start looking at these behaviors, when we start looking at abuse, when we start looking at all of these things, we need to understand where it's stemming from and how to combat it. So thank you for saying that. Cassandra says, when children come into play, the abuser may use them as pawns to escalate the manipulative behavior, and the parental protective aspect will have someone stay. They have this image of family. Yeah, absolutely.
I used to see it every day at work.
Mm.
Every day. That's why my opinion about it is different than the person that was outside of it, because I've seen how it worked on the internal. I used to see it every day. But that's not what the conversation is about. So let's just dive into something else.
No, you're good, man. And I know where you're going, and I like the fact that you're wanting to go there because that is a hot button topic, and we can spend another 30, 45 minutes talking about just
That's
that
a
alone.
show.
Right, right, absolutely, absolutely. Miss McCoy said a abuser will give you just enough to keep you hanging on. There it is. Absolutely, absolutely. Michelle Ray says, fear. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and sound mind. 2 Timothy 1 and 7. Agreed. Let me see. Miss Charlotte Jordan says it's a known fact when a victim tries to leave, it has cost many people their lives. So fear will keep you from leaving. And you know what? That is the thing. Like that is the extreme version of it, the accomplishment of it, absolutely. But the threat of it will linger because of the fear. So thank you for sharing that. Brother Christian Barrow, good to see you, man, and always welcome to the show. Another one of our prize members, young brother too. So we greatly appreciate you. Many don't see a way out of their current situation just to be loyal to the abuser to feel love or affection. Yeah, and it is misguided, misguided observations of love and affection. So thank you for that. Okay, let's kind of jump into victim blaming and self blame here. Okay, so the question is, can you explore how self blame serves as a barrier for victims seeking? I didn't realize this question was that long. Hold on, let me read it from over here. Can you explain how self blame serves as a barrier for victims seeking help and discuss the roles that both victims and allies can play in shifting the narrative from blaming to survivor empowerment?
First, we have to distinguish what victim blaming is. There's a difference between victim blaming and accountability. There is a big difference between victim blaming and accountability. That's why I don't do blind loyalty anymore. I ask questions because a lot of people, I'm not gonna since this isn't gender specific. A lot of people use this as a way to dodge, and they know that they have people that'll come to their rescue even when they wrong. You understand what I'm saying? And I can also understand the self-blame piece too, but I look at it from an objective point of view because, like I say all the time, directly or indirectly, everything that happens in life is your fault. But the self-blame aspect of it is, why did I stay? You understand what I'm saying? Like, why did I keep doing this? And then there's the other side of it. Like, what about me? And I'm speaking in general. What about me made this person think that this was okay? You understand what I'm saying? So there's a difference between self-blame, victim blaming, and basically holding yourself accountable. So I think it's best to ask questions. You understand what I'm saying? Because like I said, man, a lot of people start noise because they know they got somebody coming, no matter if they right or if they wrong.
Can't hear you, Coach. You muted.
I thought I was the only
My
one.
bad. Sorry about that. Let me inject this one piece because I know somebody heard it. I don't think Chris is saying that it is your fault that you was abused. What he is saying is that regardless of whatever happens in your life, in some shape, form, or fashion, you are a participant. So at some point, you've seen something in this person and you rejected the
And
facts
you
of
overlooked
what
it.
they're right. When you reject the facts, then you're rejecting it for something bigger of what you want, right? We have to learn to accept the facts for what they really are. When a person shows aggressive behavior towards you, that aggressive behavior is now the new reality. When you accept it, it becomes the norm. And then in most cases, it exacerbates from that point on. So he didn't say that you actually invited the abuse to you. He is just saying in some shape, form, or fashion, you participated, even if it's only 1%. There's a degree of participation there.
Not only that, before the abuse, the real abuse even happens, let's take a step back. What did I allow that they thought was okay to get it to this point? You understand what I'm saying? Because, like you said, we overlook a lot of things because we overlook a lot of things for various reasons. But something happened that made this seemed like it was okay. It might not have even been you dealing with that person. It could have been you dealing in a previous relationship and thinking that that behavior is okay because you dealt with it in a previous relationship, or you dealt with it with your family in a previous, before you even got into this. You understand what I'm saying? There are different variables when it comes to this. And to be honest, victim blaming to me is a buzzword. And y'all know how much I hate buzzwords.
Yeah, me too, Chris. That was the point I was making earlier. I think buzzwords are a form of manipulation itself. Whew. Yeah, Chris unpacked a lot on that one.
That's because I lived it. You understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I lived it. That's why when you hear it, you can hear how passionate I am about it. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you good. But to explore self-blame, I think sometimes people look for an answer, and there's a difference. And I when we talk about self-blaming and victim blaming, right? I think self-blaming as well is slightly different than the accountability part, because some people are trying to figure out what did they do to make the person hit them, right? That's different. An abuser is an abuser, a predator is a predator, right? It's not that you was just like Coach said earlier, hey guy, hit me, hey girl, throw, well, you let some people tell you might have deserved the grits, right? But that was just to be funny. I was trying to lighten it up. But it's not that you had deserved anything, let alone that you are at fault for somebody else desires to be abusive, somebody's inability to control themselves. And then when you talk about accountability, I think Chris already dealt with that. There's a difference between what did I allow? How did I allow myself to get into a situation? What flags did I not see? Right. And then talking about victim blaming, I think sometimes people think that when Chris already hit that piece, but when you say that you could have done this better, that's not victim blaming. But victim blaming is when you say, well, you see it in some of the movies that portray older Southern women. Well, what did you do to make them mad? If I ain't put my hands on him or her, they shouldn't have put their hands on me. Point blank. You know, and so I think that's the aspect to where we get into when we get into talking about victim blaming. It's like, it ain't what did you do to make him or her mad. It ain't why didn't you just do what they ask. It ain't why didn't you just conform. No, we can have a discussion and we can have a disagreement, and it don't have to turn into some form of abuse. That's what healthy relationships do. We disagree and we have a conversation about it, and we figure out what is the proper avenue to go for. That's what happens. But it's when that line of communication, or there's a barrier in communication, and I don't know how to express myself, then I become violent or mentally abusive or verbally abusive.
I kind of forgot that long question, but I know it's about victim blaming, and I forgot the latter part. But I think, okay,
It's in the
I
chat.
read your list. I read your list. Yeah. When it comes to victim blaming, I think we blame victims just like we will blame someone for, oh, she shouldn't have been wearing that dress. She shouldn't have had that little skirt on. Oh, he knew what he was getting into when he went over there. See, no one looks at the movie How Stella Got a Groove Back like this old lady was all in flux about this young lad. I'll say that. But if it was reversed, oh, people would have been tripping. So it's always a double standard, whether that's good or bad in your eyes. It's a double standard because it's harder for our society to look at men as the victim. That's why when we see these teachers who do these things to these young 13, 12-year-old boys, men say, what, I wish that was me back in the day, because you thinking from your carnal mind. But it's the same as if it were an old teacher messing with a little girl. It's the same thing, because he's not mentally prepared for that. So now when he or she is blaming themselves, well, maybe if I didn't go over there, yeah, I should have stayed my tail at home. Or, it's like just small things to, in their mind, to lessen the blow to their psyche, because they figure I got to go forward. I got to push through this thing. And if I could just blame myself without pointing the blame at everybody else, I'm taking accountability. You're not necessarily taking accountability. You're removing the accountability from the perpetrator. And that's what needs to be addressed. We need to press more on the perpetrators and not just look at like, well, everybody knew R. Kelly was doing this. Everybody knew Weinstein was doing this. Well, dang, if everybody knew it, why nobody saying nothing? Why y'all didn't leave them? Why y'all didn't cancel people when they were doing it? You wait till it's exposed and Oprah make a show about it to actually say something about it, but you had no voice and you had nothing to say during the times of the debauchery that was taking place.
Makes you co-abusers. I'm sorry.
No, you're right. It makes you complicit. What did MLK say? Good evil only triumphs when good people stand by and do nothing. It makes you complicit. You should say something, and not when it's cool. You should say something right then and right there. If you knew about it, I say everybody that knew about it should be in the same place that the abusers were, because you knew about it and you didn't say nothing. Indirectly or directly, that makes you an accomplice. That's how I would do it. Y'all lucky I don't hold a public office, or I don't have no type of power. Y'all better, ooh.
You'd have been on Donald Trump's show.
Put him right beside Eric. Put him right beside Eric Mays. It's so I think Lisa had a great question, and she asked, "Would you say that she or he chose wrong as a statement of victim blaming?"
I would say no.
I think that's accountability.
That too, but when speaking in that, I would say no, because everybody knows this. When you first meet somebody, you're meeting the public relations dude. A lot of people don't send the person from the mailroom who really don't care about this job to represent them. They send their best version. And when that person and when that delusion fails, he or she still sees that best version. I wouldn't call it victim blaming. I would say you were misrepresented, but now you have all of the information. So you should be making a more responsible decision as an adult. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. Now,
that's what I would say.
If we're talking young kids.
Oh, kids is different. Kids are completely different.
Right.
Kids are completely different. That's a whole nother spectrum.
Right. Now, if we're talking somebody that's an adult that made a decision to do something, that made a decision to stay, that made a decision to, some of us are adults in age, but not necessarily maturity. And it shows in our behaviors. It shows in our decision-making process. And that's why you can't just go off and say, oh, he was grown. Yeah, he grown. That takes me back to put him out when they're 18. He grown, but he not grown. So he's not prepared. And unless we're prepared to do certain things, we will make decisions that aren't necessarily beneficial to us as mature adults.
I think, like, when you're talking about the 18, it kind of leads right to where I was going to say. I think it depends on the scenario, right? Because I think the better statement sometimes is he or she was taught wrong or wasn't taught. So it can be considered victim blaming, but it depends on the scenario. And I say that because when you go back to what Rose say, at 18 years old, Did I prepare my son or my daughter to walk out of here and make a lifelong marital decision? Or did I teach them to be children? Did I treat them like children? Did I not give them these examples? Did I shelter them from the dating scene? You know, not saying your daughter need to be out there dating every dude in high school, or right, you know, but we take away these opportunities sometimes to teach them what's coming up. And when you shelter your child from everything, I don't have to put you through trauma to show you what trauma looks like, right? Because some of these things are real and it's real life. And some of these men out here are waiting, hunting around these college campuses, and you got some of these. I know, man. I knew a 38-year-old saw first class in Hawaii, getting ready to retire, had a PFC, throw her career away so that she can run off with him at 19 years old. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that he's out there beating her up. I don't know what he is or ain't doing, but what I do know is that that he prayed. He saw these young women coming in, and he prayed, and he got one. And so I have to prepare you for these things that are real life. I have to have a relationship with you as my child, that I can be someone you consoling on these decision-making processes as an adult. So I wouldn't necessarily say it is or it ain't victim blaming, but I would say for me, the better concept is he or she wasn't taught good or taught well enough.
You know what? I agree with that. Like every fiber of that. Like for real. I think that's the issue. We don't do enough teaching of the right things. Like I'm not saying that for the most part parents aren't teaching, right? I'm not saying that right now. But what I'm saying, I'm not saying that right now. But what I am saying, you know me. You know me. You got to catch me on another day. It's just not going to be tonight. So I'm not saying that right now. But what I am saying is that there are some things that are not being taught, to where the lack of understanding that the child that changes into an adult at a certain point in time, like Roland said, not kicking them out the house at 18. Right? If you don't teach them how to be in a relationship, if you don't teach them what a relationship really is, like I always ask this question, like number one, like how did you, like, do you have friends? Yes. Okay. Do you have a best friend? Yes. How did your best friend become your best friend? I don't know. It just happened. So how, if you got a best friend and you don't know how they became, you guys became best friends, then how in the world do you come to the determine that this is your significant other or whatever? How do you see what I'm saying? So it's just like, when I ask that question, people are like, whoa, I never thought about that. Yeah, that's it. Because you will literally have this checklist when it comes down to quote unquote relationships. Like, hey, you know, do you meet this yet? 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 Okay, cool. So now we can date. No, that's like go to buildabear.com and do it that way instead. So again, when we get to that point, now we're setting the conditions for certain things. Getting back on topic though, when it comes down to the concept for me, when it comes down to the concept of victim blaming, I think that is always on the wrong side of the fence that we're supposed to be in. Like for me, it's important for me to understand, like I can look at myself and say, yep, as I look back over this and consider my marriage, yeah, I chose wrong. I can say that about me, and that's me taking responsibility of my behavior, right? But I can't project that on somebody else, right? Once I project it on somebody else, I don't know the ins and outs and the details behind their life. I know I said earlier that, sometimes we look at certain things and we ignore the signs, but we also have to understand that the law of polarity is real. So there are some people to where there were no signs. That person was the perfect chameleon, right, around them and around everybody else that they were around. And then one day, this person showed up. It was almost like, I can't remember what drug it is, but it just like sits dormant in your system for a while and then it just shows up. So we have to believe that that's a thing as well.
Sounds like an edible.
I don't know, man. I don't
Sounds
know.
like an edible.
I know PCP used though.
Oh,
I think that's what
Sage.
it is. I think it's PCP. It sits in your system for an extended period of time, and you can have relapses. So great points, all great comments that you guys are putting in the chat. Again, Gentlemen, I value you and I appreciate the sensitivity of this conversation, and respecting the ears of those who are hearing this as well, because we just don't know what a person's experience is. And that's why I started off the way I did. That said, before we get into our final thoughts, I want to announce something real quick. For those of you who are available tomorrow morning at 10:30, I will be doing a teaching on the Gateway to Success Part 2. So if you have not registered for the Gateway to Success Part 2, the link is at the bottom. And this is where we dive deep into principles that, pretty much make you successful according to what the scriptures say. And I also want to announce at the end of the month, October 30, get your tickets ready, get your popcorn ready, because this man here is going on stage, right? So go ahead and register for his webinar, The Power of Positive Thinking. I'm looking forward to that. I get to sit in the audience, y'all. That's why I'm excited.
You said that like you was putting me up to dance, Dollar Bill. So no, let me stop.
See what I'm saying? This is why I get to sit in the audience and eat popcorn. I'm looking forward to this. So again, if you haven't registered yet for the Gateway to Success Part 2, go ahead and register. Again, tomorrow morning at 10:30. I'm gonna do it on my webpage as opposed to doing it on YouTube. That way, there's no delay. That way, you guys are not, having that delay that we experienced last time. And then for the Power of Positive Thinking, go ahead and register for that as well and get it on your calendars for October 30th. That being said, that takes us to the bittersweet part of our conversation. Again, we love being with you guys. We love spending time with you, but we don't want to keep you all night. So I got to get these gentlemen to give us our final thought. So that being said, we're going to start with our brother, Mr. Christopher McClellan.
I guess my final thought would be this. Don't ignore the signs. Say something. No matter how much it hurts, no matter who it is, it could potentially save your life and keep you from a lot of strife later on in life. Say something, get some help. Talk to somebody. That's my final thought.
I think we're in a time where we don't value the unity of our community, of our families. We kind of talked about it, our mothers are kicking daughters out at 18. Our fathers are kicking sons out at 18. And some of them don't have the willingness to help them on life's journey once they kick them out. And these are real stories for real people in our community. And so many people go through things in life as young adults and as older adults, and they stay to almost to their detriments, and to some to their detriments, because they don't have that community that they can look back to. They don't have that support group they can look back to. They've trusted the wrong people. And we have to figure out, where do we go from here? And there's some people in our corners and in our circles that are probably suffering in silence right now, and we don't notice. So I think it was Lisa Keys who said it concerning family members and friends. I'll say it right now: have the conversation. Start talking about some things that are uncomfortable with your friends. And if it's you, speak up, speak out, get help. It's all right. Become a survivor, not a victim.
I think we are seeking physical companionship, physical compatibility versus establishing real relationships and learning one another before we get into that connectivity. Because we will overlook things where people will say, I love hard, or I can't live without you, and you better not do this, and you better not do that. And those are forms of control. Those are just little seeds of mental control, that if you do this, they will leave. If you do this, they will hurt you. And they're telling you these things up front. But up front early, you laugh it up, ha ha, he. No, you can't ha ha, he these things. You got to learn these people and realize that, hold up, let me learn who you really are. Let me see who you are when you get mad. Let me see how you treat the waitress when they don't bring you your order correctly. Let me learn you and then establish a relationship, because if we aren't compatible, I don't care what you look like. You can look like the best looking person in the world to whomever, but if you don't treat me well, if you don't treat that person well, then you aren't any good for you, for me. And that's what we got to stop looking at the outside box and see what's internal, see what drives them, see what motivates them, see what hurts they have, because some of their hurts can filter off on you, some of their cuts can bleed on you, can cut you. So instead of just saying, okay, it'll do that I will have somebody, that I can have somebody in my bed, have somebody in my corner. If you it's better to be alone than to have somebody who treats you like you're alone. So make sure that when it's all said and done, you establish who you are. And when you make set boundaries and you set standards, you keep them, and you ensure that other people do also. And that'll make your circle tight, and you won't have problems from outside interferences.
I believe that we have grown too accustomed to purchasing things and not necessarily reading the instructions of the things that we purchase, and we just figure it out en route. You've heard time and time again that there is no blueprint to doing this. There's no blueprint to parenting. There's no blueprint to relationships. There's no blueprint. There's no blueprint. There's no blueprint. That's not true. There is a blueprint. You were created by the Most High. That being said, He tells you how to actually do the thing. What we have to do is get into the blueprint and study it for ourselves. We need to learn it so that I can treat you accordingly. So I can treat you just as though He wants me to view you. Once I view you through the lens that He gave me to view you as, to understand who you are, to understand the care that He took in creating you, then how dare I abuse you? I think that's the thing that we have to understand, right? You are the prized possession of our Most High. And so I should never put myself in a position to where I try to dominate. That's just wrong. And so we got to do better. We got to do better. We have to teach better. We have to educate. As the scripture tells us that my people perish for lack of knowledge. Well, the lack of knowledge of each other, which my brother said just now, the lack of knowledge of each other is part of the reason why our community is perishing. We live in neighborhoods and we don't even know the people that live to our left and right. We get in relationships and we don't even take time for us to have a good understanding of family dynamics, let alone your own behavior. So take the time. This is the main reason why we created the Empowering Perspective membership program, because we create these blueprints just like the one we created, like how to the effective way to the process to get to the marriage, the process to get to a fruitful relationship. I must first honor and respect my first relationship. Once I honor and respect my first relationship, then I can consider another relationship outside of that one. But until I respect that one, I'm not going to have respect for people, because I don't actually understand what love is. I can't understand what love really and truly is unless I go back to the one that defines himself as love. And I think that's one of the things that we're missing in this world, in this society. We have too much ambiguity when it comes down to everything. That may work for you, but it won't work for me. No, I don't know where that came from, but we need to stop using that as an excuse. Well, if I only eat 1,000 calories a day, I'll lose weight. Well, that works for you, but it won't work for you. Have you tried it? That's the thing we have to understand. You can't deny a thing if you've never tried a thing. So the question that I present to everybody for you to consider as we get ready to exit this conversation: have you tried being a part of a community that does not judge you, a community that accepts you for who you are, where you are, anything that you've ever been through? They don't necessarily care about the details behind it. They only care that we look at each other the same, that we look at each other and respect each other's differences, respect the fact that we all have a past, and the past does not define you. No one past defines it. Our past is only there so for us to learn from it. If you can learn from your past, then you can make your future better. And that's the thing I want to leave everybody with. So that being said, we went a few minutes over time. I thank you guys for staying with us. We value you. We appreciate you guys. Again, have a great and wonderful rest of your evening. These dudes know I appreciate them and love them, but I want to make sure I tell them in public, I love these guys because these guys are awesome. They always add value, and I look forward to every conversation that we have and get the opportunity to share with you. So again, have a wonderful evening. I look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow morning at 10:30, right? So that we can talk about the gateway to success. And if I do not, have a phenomenal weekend until next week, same time, same channel, here on the Hearts of Men podcast.